Greetings and salutations, young true believers. So, in the rest of his article, Demystifying Underdetermination, Larry Laudan, he turns his attention to the works of Nelson Goodman, uh, Thomas Kuhn, Mary Hesse, and David Bloor. And he wants to ascertain whether any of them has made a plausible case for ampliative underdetermination. Remember, underdetermination being the doctrine that for any set of evidence, right, that evidence is consistent with any number of rival theories, of competing theories, right? So he wants to examine their takes on this, having dispensed to his satisfaction with Quine's views on the matter, right? So very briefly, David Hume in the 18th century, he destroyed the, the the notion that inductive reasoning could be rationally justified by pointing out that anytime you engage in inductive reasoning, you're engaging in an unwarranted extrapolation from past and present experience to future experience. That's what he means when he says nature. The assumption in every inductive argument is that nature is uniform. Another way of parsing that is to say that the future will resemble the past, and that's just not, again, rationally justified. So this has been a very sore spot for philosophers and scientists ever since Hume wrote that. Well, in the 1950s, Nelson Goodman, an American pragmatist philosopher, he wrote an article, The New Riddle of Induction, in which he introduces a hypothetical predicate GRU, which is an emerald that is green at one time and blue at another time of observation, right? The upshot being that we don't and in Plato's words, carve nature at the joints, right? That is to say, our scientific theories, our best scientific theories, obliquely uh, address the natural world, or make contact, if you will, with the natural world, right? So that's who Laudan is addressing here. Um, Now, Loudon doesn't try to solve the new riddle of induction. He lets that be. Quote, Loudon observes that even if it were true that some GRU-like hypotheses are as well supported by our evidence as some non-GRU-like hypotheses, that hardly shows that any theory whatever enjoys the same support from that evidence. Kuhn defends a local version of the underdetermination theory by our thesis by restricting its scope to the known rivals of a given theory and arguing that shared methodological rules involving values such as accuracy, scope, and simplicity are too vague to pick out one theory as the best. Now, Loudon counters this by describing other rules, also widely shared by scientists, that are much less vague than accuracy, scope, and simplicity, and which could, at least in principle, be used to resolve a conflict between competing theories. And Loudon's example of this was a dispute between Newtonian and Cartesian, that is to say, Rene Descartes, followers of Descartes, concerning the shape of the Earth. Right? Um, they uh, they applied a simple methodological rule to get around that. Right? Um, I agree with Loudon on that aspect of his work. I think that Kuhn's criteria of, again, simplicity, accuracy, and scope are a bit vague, right? Although, as we'll see, I think there's a bit of some degree of vagueness and ambiguity in this entire debate can't be avoided, right? Now, really quickly, I got to talk to you about the strong program in a sociology of knowledge. This is uh, a a thought experiment, or it's not a thought experiment. It's a critique of scientific practice that was advanced by two Scottish philosophers slash sociologists, um, uh, David Bloor and Larry Barnes, and the critique of or excuse me, the strong program in sociology of knowledge is essentially this. Um, when confronted with a scientific thesis that is um, equally well confirmed by, or excuse me, when competing theses is what I want to say. This is the issue we're talking about. When competing theses are equally well confirmed by the evidence, right? What remains to enable scientists to choose between the competing theories? Well, Barnes and Bloor argue, this again, a strong program in the sociology of knowledge, that only sociological factors can make that difference. Now, it's the, the strong program is extremely controversial. Scientists immediately balk at, oh no, we don't succumb to the siren song of sociological considerations. Rather, there are other rational considerations such as good reasoning and preponderance of evidence and things like that can help us make our decisions. So I give you this brief interview or brief overview, excuse me, of the strong program because that's what Laudan's going to turn his attention to next, right? Uh, so quoting from Laudan, I agree with Mary Hess. Mary Hess is a advocate for the strong program, right? That deductive underdetermination implies that scientists must rely on extra empirical criteria in deciding among the theories. So he grants that, right? But I reject as gratuitous her implicit assumption that the adoption of such criteria must be caused by social factors. And again, that's the crux of the matter with the strong program in the sociology of knowledge. Similarly, Laudan finds no merit in Bloor's argument, which, from premises about historical cases in which evidence has not determined the theoretical choices made by scientists, he concludes that scientists can retain any theory or law regardless of the evidence. And this is really the sticking point for Laudan. Can we, in Quine's words, retain a theory come what may? Laudan thinks that's just without merit, and frankly, I agree. I don't think we can retain any theory come what may. And then that's a really important sticking point for Quine in his Two Dogmas article, right? Uh, Laudan emphasizes the need to stipulate that it must be rational to retain the theory in the face of recalcitrant, that is to say, contrary evidence or stubborn evidence, if underdetermination is to be anything more than a boring triviality, excuse me, right? But is it rational to retain a theory, regardless of the evidence, come what may, right? Um, Laudan's upshot, his conclusion is none of the arguments that he's examined, not one of them, from Quine, from Goodman, from Dewham, from Hess, from Barnes and Bloor, right, make it plausible that the underdetermination thesis can really hold water.